Okay, so welcome, Graham. Great to have a chance to have a chat with you this morning. Obviously, Graham, you're a sort of leading practitioner and global voice of product operations, head of product ops at Heliox, where you are kind of taking them from 0 to 1 in terms of their sort of product ops journey, and a journey I think you've done a couple of times before. So it's always great to get a chance to speak to you and learn more about the field of product ops.
Thank you, thanks for having me. Yeah, on that journey, and it is certainly a journey as well that we are on. So yeah, happy to chat about it.
Fab. So I think maybe a good place to start is just to get a bit of a definition, really, of the product ops role. People might not be aware of it just yet. So yeah, maybe you could just outline the product ops role.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I always like to start with this as a question is actually to split the role and the function,
Hmm.
because the function has always been there in actual fact. So the function, the things that product ops is most concerned with, most focuses on, are the operational processes within product management teams,
Hmm.
the wider tech function within the business, and actually touches on the entire business with a lens of product and product management. And so it's it looks at things about like how do the product teams, how does the tech team use data,
Hmm.
metrics to help inform their decisions. It's about the way that they communicate with the wider business and also collaborate, within themselves and with the wider business as well. What are our processes, our ways of working? And processes are always seems to be a bit of a dirty word. We always think of process, or many people think of process as this very bureaucratic, very almost government-like tick boxing exercise. And actually, if you strip it away back to the function of a business, businesses have processes left, right, and centre. If you don't have a process, you don't have a business, you don't have a way of the business functioning. How do people collaborate? How do they do the most basic things? How do you get paid if you don't follow a process from A to B to C? And so product operations is very focused on how do people work? What are those processes? The software development lifecycle ultimately is a journey, a set of processes that we go from very early discovery and ideation. And even within those, there are pretty much set ways of doing that. And even if they're not set in stone for the entire world, within the business, we have ways of doing it. And so product operations is about looking at those and saying, how can we help and enable and facilitate those people that are following those processes to do those processes faster, more automated, use AI, in the modern world? How can we make sure that those are fit for purpose so that, um, in my world, product managers, and let's focus on those for the moment, have more time on the primary reason that they're employed by the business. And if you think about everybody in a business, they are all employed at the most basic, even stereotypical level to do one primary role. Salespeople to sell the product. Engineers at the lowest level write lines of code. Yes, they do loads more things, absolutely, very valuable things, but basically that's what they do. And product managers to design and enable the teams to build great products. And so, what things can we take away from them? Can we unblock? Can we enable them to do faster and quicker so that they have more time on that primary task? So that's the function, of product operations. It's always been there, and it is all. And then as a role, it's something that has really evolved over the kind of the past 5 6 years in its current incarnation. I've been doing it for about five. You'll have had program manager, you'll have had those sorts of roles that have kind of portfolio manager, those sorts of type roles
Yeah.
where they've done similar things like that in the past. And so we've now got a role that is focused on doing those things, those that glue and those interconnecting webs between people.
Hmm.
Um, and and it's a role that has evolved to being typically something that is a dedicated thing by a person or even a team in large
Yeah.
businesses. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to have a dedicated person, but it has to have, to be successful, dedicated time and
Sure.
dedicated resource. So if that means a product manager spends a day a week, or several of them spend a small portion of their time, but focused on product operations, tasks, and projects,
Yeah.
that's great and fine.
Okay, amazing. Thanks, Graham. And then I'm keen to just sort of understand like where the boundaries are, where product ops ends and product management starts to some degree. I know there's been some kind of conversation in the community around the risk that product ops becomes another term for for sort of other roles in the past that have maybe obfuscated the product management role. Risk that it becomes, sort of a PMO or almost a product owner role, or that ends up sort of eating up certain functions that we think that the product manager should be doing. Whether that's kind of proper customer research or looking at data or that kind of stuff. Can you just maybe tell us where the edges of this role are, and at what point you kind of make sure that product managers are doing the things they're meant to do, and you're not kind of stepping on their toes?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, and I always use this term, and it is a little bit flippant. I don't care in product operations. I fundamentally don't care what we build as a product team, as a business. I don't care. What I do care about is, are we building the right things for the right reasons, the most valuable things? Are we really contributing to the business goals? Are we using all the data that we possibly could? Are we taking all of the insights, all of the qualitative data? Are we using our experience? And are we bringing all of that together on the table and then making the right decisions? If we are, great. That's almost, that's where kind of my thought process ends, because we have people, the product managers, the product owners, the directors, the engineers, the designers, the insights team, everybody around the business. They are very focused on making those right decisions. I'm focused on, have you got everything you need to make that right decision?
Yeah.
And so I will quite often be in product planning sessions, strategy sessions, and things like that. And with my history, I mean, I spent 10 years in product management, product manager, product director sort of roles. And so I can't help it occasionally, in just kind of based on that experience, going, have we thought about this? And asking those sorts of questions, or maybe giving a small piece of insight because something I've picked up. But
Yeah.
99% of the time, I'm there listening, and I'm actually more listening out for, are we making those right decisions because we've used the data? And I
Yeah.
might pipe up if I've not heard something, and I'll say, just a quick question: have we looked at this? Have we asked the customers about this?
Yeah.
And if they turn around and go, yes, we have, Graham, we're just about to get to that, I'll go sit back in the corner and read a book. That's all fine. Or if they turn around and say, no, we haven't quite got there yet, this is what we're going to do next. Okay, that's great as well. I'm not here. I'm not your supervisor. I'm not here to tell you, you've done wrong. I want to make sure that we've done this. And if you are going to do that, do you know what? Even in a smaller decision, probably you haven't done. That's okay. Let's just make sure that we've gone and done that.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm really very interested in that we're making the right decisions, not the actual decision itself. It's not firstly, in a weird way, it's not my job, and I'm not the right person to. I've not got that deep knowledge of the customer, of our products, etc., etc., to know what the right decisions are and aren't. Again, that's what we've got very skilled people in other roles to do.
Yeah. Okay.
So my remit ends at the point whereby it's the actual thing that we're building itself.
Yeah.
I'm again, so and then around that, are we communicating with the wider business effectively? Does everybody know what we're building and when we're building it and why we built it, as well? Possibly even certain elements of the external communication, as well. Again, not the content of what we're saying, but
Yeah.
actually the tone, the angle, the message. I might kind of just go, hey, we might want to make this a bit more positive, or we might want to kind of really get people excited about why we have done, why we chose to do this, why we chose to build this, why this is going to be great for the business.
Yeah.
Communications within products is a big passion of mine. It's an area I focus a lot of time, and effort on, in really making sure that we are crafting the right messages that really touches people, to be honest with you, really gets them going and really excited. Because if they're excited, they then take that same enthusiasm with them when they talk to customers and other people around the business as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Amazing.
so yeah, that's where kind of Product Ops ends. Is we just give we almost build this big platform for predominantly product management to go, hey, the stage is yours. We've done all the logistics to get you on that stage. When
Yeah.
you're on that stage, what you then do, it's up to you. But
Yeah.
we do everything to kind of get you to that point.
Great. Thanks, Graham. So it sounds like, yeah, enabling, supporting, removing blockers, so that PMs can be the best PMs they can be. Sounds like that's the sort of crux of the job. And then
Yeah,
if I'm
and just one, just a piece on that as well, because you touched upon that earlier as well. Is, well, kind of, where does this sit?
yeah,
And there used to be kind of two kind of directions that the product ops role was going in. One was, is this a very, very low level supporting role, almost kind of product owner, rebranded product owner, or is it even lower than that? Is it a very entry level role? And it's not at all. It's a very strategic role. It's
Mhm.
a role that, because you're so focused on not you're not focused at all on doing the stuff that product managers don't want to do. It's
Yeah,
not the point of the role at all. It's not where you get the most value out of the role. It's not first line triage
no,
of bugs. It's not writing PRDs. It's not all the, to be fair, crap that product managers don't enjoy doing. It's the other end of the scale, because we're looking across the entire division. We're looking even across the entire business to go, how can we strategically help and even change and improve the way that we work, not just for one person, not for one team, but for the entire division to
Mhm.
work better. And so it's a very high level role. It's a role that typically sits at a director type level. So you kind of, your director of products, typically reporting into your CPO, CTO, similar, or
Yeah,
COO even type role. And it comes with it that kind of that authority to kind of go, hey, what do we need to go and change and improve, and then go at it and improve it and work with those teams and go,
yeah.
let's help, let's improve.
So that's a great point. Thanks, Graham. And you kind of mentioned the sort of CPO, director of product role there. If I'm a sort of CPO, director of product, maybe even a CEO, and what are the signs? Why might I sort of start thinking about product ops? What should I be looking for? Let's start there. So yeah, why would I start sort of thinking about implementing product ops in my product org?
It's a great question, and there's kind of two directions here. There's, firstly, look, am I trying to solve some problems?
Yeah.
And typically the easier one to solve. And then
Mhm.
you've also got kind of like, where's the value add here?
Yeah.
And we'll come on to that in a second, because that tends to just be slightly more difficult to kind of define. What are the problems to solve? I think the first one we can look at is say, what sort of size businesses would look at product ops in the first
Mhm.
place? Because look, product ops is not going to be your first product hire. It's not your second. It's not your third. The magic number, which ironically is also coincidentally also Dunbar's number, which is 150. Dunbar's number, if people don't know that are watching this, it's the maximum number theoretically that people could have, of number of relationships people can have with others, before those relationships start to become degrade a little bit in terms of that, the closeness and things like that. Um, and it's the number that I've kind of found is the sweet spot for where product ops starts to be thought about in the size of your business.
Okay.
It could be 150, it could be 200, around that sort of number,
Mhm.
because at that time, at that size, you're not a startup. My cat is now annoyed. Come on, out of the way, cat. Out you go.
Always enjoy cats.
Yeah, oh, he always comes along when I'm talking on the phone. Um, it's that sort of number whereby, you're not a startup anymore. You've gone through the startup, and you've gone through a phase of being very very slapdash. You're very
Yeah,
scrappy, and rightly so. That's absolutely what you should probably
yeah,
be doing. Now you're at that size of business whereby you've probably started to hire new people in that haven't been there since early days. They're
Yeah.
coming in with different ways of work and they're coming in with different thoughts. Those people that have been there that are from the very scrappy early days probably enjoy doing all of that,
Hmm.
but it doesn't scale. And
Yeah.
now that you're scaling, you're looking at this and saying, we need to start just working a little bit more efficiently. We need to be a bit better aligned because before we could operate on basically the good graces of really hard-working people, and that won't
Yeah.
continue forever. As we scale, we get more people in. And so what you then start to notice is people are doing things very differently. Even within the product teams with the best will in the world,
Yeah.
they're operating differently. They're communicating quite often very differently as
Hmm.
well. You'll have some that are, writing, for example, their release notes, and some will be a list of Jira tickets, and others will be chapter and verse about why this is great and awesome and what we've done here. And then when you get to that sort of size of business, certainly to your 300, 400s, people around the business stop seeing product as that team and that team, or that person and that person. They see it as one division.
Right.
And so it starts to become quite a disjointed experience interacting with products. If you've got very different ways of working, you've
Yeah.
got maybe different operating cadences, different meeting cadences, different ways of communicating, different levels of technical communication and
Yeah.
things like that. Um, and it just becomes a very difficult relationship with that
Hmm.
business. And so product ops would then look at this and say, hey, how do we align so that we're all working roughly the same way? How that we're communicating roughly the same way, so that the experience for everybody outside of product is good, is
Yeah.
joined up, is seamless. And then when we talk about being seamless, then we start to look at within and externally of the product division, those ways of working, the processes that we go through, the way that we ingest feedback into the division, the way that we interact with our customers, do voice of the customer, do our customer research, things like that. That absolutely needs to be finessed. It can't be, again, a good disjointed experience. Internally, you could probably get away with it for a period of time. Externally, we need to be very professional in how we're doing that. Not the same as when we're in startup land, but when we get to scale up and beyond, then image is, to be honest, much more important at that point.
Yeah.
Um, Go on.
No, I was just going to ask, and then so I mean, you obviously talked about people there. Do you get involved in kind of recruiting and onboarding? Onboarding's a kind of passion of mine because most companies don't do it very well, and I think for PMs it's incredibly important. And I can see how product ops might be able to play a really key role there in making sure that there's consistency of experience and ensuring that folks get onboarded correctly so that they can become much more productive in their role a lot sooner.
Yes, absolutely. Uh, Although I've not so far here, to where I am at the moment. It is on my roadmap of things to do.
Yeah,
Um, right now, we've just gone through a big hiring spree, kind of in the product and engineering team. I was part of that, and while
yeah,
we're, to be honest with you, I had other problems to solve first before we got to it, and now
yeah,
we've hired everybody. And I'll be
yeah.
honest with you, onboarding is kind of lower down on my priority list,
Right.
but it is absolutely important to do because. When we next have some hires that come in, it's always going to be down on your priority list.
Yeah.
But absolutely, it is an area of product ops, and I have been involved with, in previous organisations to make sure that we're starting people off with the right things, and it is very tactical.
Yeah.
Product ops is a real mixture of being strategic and tactical.
Hmm.
Right now, I've been almost universally tactical on various things since I started because there was a huge amount that we're building from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
Um, and with that onboarding experience, it is very tactical. It will be things like, well, what Slack channels do we need to use?
Hmm.
How do we access our road mapping tools? How are we using Jira? How are our sprints set up? Where are we communicating?
Yeah. Yeah.
How are we communicating? What are the steps and processes and guidelines and templates that we are using?
Yeah.
Again, the barrier stops at what does our product do, and what am I going to be building? If we're talking about product managers,
Yeah.
but everything up to that point is how will I work with the team? How do I work with the rest of the
Yeah.
business? Something that I've implemented in nearly every business I've set product ops in is I've implemented what I call Product Hub. It's a single central place for all things about the product for the wider business, and it is quite useful for onboarding, not just for
Mhm.
the product team, but also for the wider business as well.
Yeah.
Again, it is a place whereby we can store information about
Mhm.
the product itself and help people on board with that. But it's much more about, hey, here's the forms that you can fill in if you want to send us your feature request. Here is, the ways of working, and we display that very openly. We talk about the software development lifecycle. We talk about how we run Scrum, and we make that very transparent to the wider business and written in a way that they would also understand as
Yeah.
well. So they appreciate how we work.
Mhm.
They also have, within some of those areas, expectations of them, how we expect them, we ask them to, how they get involved in this, how they interact, what's their part to play in a lot of this as well.
Yeah.
Um, and that's super important at the onboarding time, so that people come in afresh and go, what are the expectations of me coming in to work with different parts of the business?
Yeah, it's so important. And I mean, yeah, even just on a low level, I know from experience, and I'm sure you've had this experience as well, Graham, where you've, joined a company as a PM and, you just can't get access to the tools, or worse, it's a month in before you know that you find out that, everybody's using some piece of software that, you'd never heard of yet. So just even having that stuff nailed down so that, in the early days, you can understand what it looks like and what tools you should be accessing, and all that sort of stuff is incredibly useful. And then I know, so you talked about your product hub, which sounds like a great idea, and you're at the moment sort of diarising your 0 to 1 product ops journey at Helios X on Substack. So I'd love to just hear a bit about that. If you're coming into a business, or if a business is moving to product ops, what are the sort of first 2 or 3 things they should be thinking about where they're going to start seeing kind of some value and impact kind of straight away from a product ops perspective?
It's a great question, because I could use the age old trope that product managers use. It depends,
Yeah.
and it does, because realistically, the very first thing is is discovery, is finding out what all the, let's call them problems,
Mhm.
opportunities are, to help improve the business.
Okay.
And product ops, before we go there, product ops is not a quick fix. There
Mhm.
are quick fixes that can be made, but product ops is not a consultancy where you can come in and go, hey, here's a whole list of things that I'll go and put in, and in 3 months' time I'll bug off, and your business will be super aligned. That's not to say that consultants, and I have a lot of product ops consultants friends, don't absolutely have their place. But they will come in and they will put those recommendations in place if they're going to be on a short-term basis, or they'll work with you long-term and physically implement them. But product ops is a journey. It's a journey that is at the very least a year, possibly 6 months, at least a year, to really start to go, we have made big strides here.
Mhm.
Um, I've been at Helios about 5 months now, and I've now only getting people coming to me and going, "There's a big difference we can see here." You
Right.
don't get that after a month. The
Yeah.
first month is discovery. It's finding out where the big projects are and where the
Yeah.
quick wins are, where the low hanging fruit is.
Mhm.
Um, then it's then it's validation. Then it's kind of putting your own roadmap together, things like that. And then you've got some choices to make. You identify what the things are that we'll solve. And I can go in a second, I'll go on to some of the commonalities.
Yeah.
But my approach is a two-track thing. We'll have some long-term projects, and I will then go after some quick wins.
Yeah.
And the reason is, I'll go after quick wins quite often, big sooner than the big projects, because you start to build that trust
Yeah.
with the rest of the business and saying, hey, Graham or product ops knows what he's doing. We've identified these things. It's made a difference. People are slightly happier, or maybe greatly happier, I hope. And we've improved. We've taken a step forward. And you know what? Then there's another thing. We've taken another step forward and another step forward. And all of a sudden, you're going, we're knocking out win after win after win. And you're building that trust.
Yeah.
Because then when you turn around and say, hey, we've got a bigger project and we now need to implement bigger changes, more fundamental changes, either with technology or
Yeah.
with more likely the way that people work. And if you try and go in completely fresh faced, no trust, because they don't know you, to try and, go, well, you're going to now work this way, this way, this way, this way,
Yeah.
this way from the way you were doing it, falls flat on its arse, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's difficult to get buy-in for that. Whereas actually across the business, if you've gone, I've helped them, I've helped them, I've helped them, and we've changed this, we've moved this needle and this needle and this needle. It can only be small numbers, but you've built that trust.
Mhm.
And then you start to look at the bigger picture. And for me, it is worked every single time. It's absolutely what I recommend. It's not to say that you go after the cheap and meaningless stuff. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's about picking those right targets that you can make, very, very quick impacts on.
Amazing. Okay.
In terms of common areas.
Yeah.
Um, Tooling is quite often a good one to look at. Not in
Yeah.
terms of replacing tooling, but how are people using the tooling?
Yeah.
Um, Things like Jira and things like that is usually always quite kind of a mess. So there might be some quick wins that you can kind of achieve there.
Yeah.
Things like documentation, are we documenting things? Putting in place a product hub actually is very quick and easy to do and introduce as that central shared location that people
Yeah.
can always go to, particularly across the business.
Yeah.
Because what you'll end up doing as well is getting eyes on the things that you're doing, and also, of course, the rest of the
Yeah.
product team. You're quite often being very transparent, enabling transparency of the product team, what
Yeah.
they're doing. So you can put their roadmaps on there. You can put the feature request forms on there. You can put their ways of working. You can put agendas for common meetings, things like that on there. It's very visual. It solves kind of a lot of problems all in one go,
Yeah.
and it's very easy to do.
Yeah.
Um, Communications is it's a two-pronged one. There are some quick wins that you can do there about agendas for meetings and things like that. And you're not writing the agenda, you're setting a framework for meetings and how they work and operate. You might look at these and go, well, actually, can we combine these two together? Can we change this around? Can we reorder meetings so that actually you start audiences start to accumulate the knowledge? You've gone from one, and the next one is maybe a bigger, more company-wide meeting, but it's repeating the same information, so people are then repeat, absorb.
Yeah.
Things like that again are potentially very easy to do, very easy where it's the right thing to do to implement, but you've made a difference, and you've made a difference to wider people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Communication on the other side of things, for me, is one of the biggest challenges,
Yeah.
because actually, if you're looking at the way that people communicate, if you're talking about kind of where their focus is, what I call being very audience led. So telling people what they need to hear, not what you want to tell them, particularly in level of technical input and things like that. That is a hard habit to break. And something I always talk a lot about is product operations is very focused on behaviors and changing habits. And that is a big thing
Yeah.
to do. It's really important and absolutely what product ops is all about. But in many cases, that is a long-term thing to prep and prime and monitor and keep pushing and iterating on. Not going, you're going to change and do this, and this tomorrow. Actually,
Yeah.
we'll start with this and we'll roll it out for a month, 2 months,
Yeah.
and then we'll improve it to do this, and then we'll improve it to be like this.
Yeah.
And Helios, I'm only a third of the way through that journey with our teams at the moment
Yeah.
in altering their thought process on how they approach telling the wider business what we're building and why it's valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And I can absolutely see how, if you don't build that trust, as you were talking about earlier on, then this change becomes very difficult, because I think you're right. I'm sure there's some fairly sort of obvious outputs you can do. I'm thinking, I'm sure a lot of companies have got, metrics and data might be a bit of a mess. They might have it around their neck, and actually implementing, a sort of standardized, solid, metrics application and all that sort of stuff is very valuable. But is fairly, sort of simple to do, right? You can go through the steps, assuming you've got engineer time and all the rest of it, you can step through it. But the really challenging thing is changing hearts and minds and changing, changing process and culture, potentially, where teams have been used to working in a certain way for a while. Maybe there's some, challenge to why should I change? And I guess building that up over time can be one of the biggest blockers to succeeding in the role, potentially.
Yeah, and data's a very interesting one, because you absolutely nailed it. We could go and build dashboards. When I was at Cobalt a couple of years ago, the dashboards that were there were all very homegrown. Everybody built their own, and they were all about the place. They were all a mess. Some of them were the same charts, pulling from different data sources and telling different sources of the same story. And I spent about 6 weeks completely rebuilding them from scratch to a very centralized and standard way of doing it. And that's a very easy thing to do. And product ops can directly do all of that. They can build the dashboards. They look at the analysis. They might point fingers at in directions on trends, but they won't make the decisions based on that. Again, that's back to the product manager to make those decisions. But quite often, one of the bigger to finish that piece as well, or in larger businesses, you'll quite often have like an insights team as well. So where I am at Helios, I'm not building these things, not many of them anyway. We've got an insights team that's building all of these. My role is to kind of look at this and say, hey, are we building these? Are we specifying the right dashboards that are built for our teams, etc., etc.? And we're just starting out on that journey now. That's a fairly quick win. But the bigger problem that follow, or the bigger challenge after that, is everybody using these things? Are we looking at the right things? Are our product teams being data informed? Are they looking at these charts on a regular basis to help their decision making process? And that is a fundamental thing that comes right back to how embedded we are with these dashboards and how well they're being used. Some businesses will have lovely dashboards, no one uses them. Okay, that's great. Some will have introduced the dashboards, but are now really gearing up to that data way of thinking. So they're on a journey. You might have some businesses that have been really data-led from very early doors, and so it's ingrained into product managers. Now it won't be the case of, okay, we now do need to extend the scope of what we're looking at. What are the trends that we're looking at? So again, it will be very, very different approach. Every single business, there's almost the same journey, the same destination you want to get to on that journey, but the journey length will be different. The journey direction will be very different on how you get there and how you achieve that. And that's very much based, all of this changing behaviors, changing habits, is all based on personalities, all based on personnel. So again, it's you can almost have a little bit of a blueprint of saying, well, these are the things that we want to achieve. But the ability to implement that is wildly different every single time, because it's about the people. It's about the personalities of people and their habits you're trying to change. Are they, as you said, really resistant to change? Oh, I've done it this way forever. I just love doing this. I haven't got enough time to do X, Y, and Z. I'm too busy. Or are they really geared up for change, particularly if it's reducing their effort, automation and AI and enhanced processes. And I've worked with all spectrums. At some businesses I've had ones that are super, super resistant. They don't want to, they're not interested in any change unless it really, really impacts their own personal life, and to be honest, bugger all else. Or I've had some people that are like, let's test it. Let's use my team, use my squad. We'll They want to feedback. They go, have you thought about using this? And I'm like, no, but it's great. And let's have a go at it.
Great. And then just thinking about, if I'm a product manager and I'm wanting to get into product ops, what's the route, Graham? Obviously, that's a sort of move that you've made. I'm guessing most people get into product ops from product management, but I could be wrong. So what's the route? How do I sort of move into this area?
There's lots of different routes in, absolutely. So in terms of kind of the your career trajectory, get that word out. Yes, product management is a common route. It
Yeah,
has advantages for sure because you're working very closely with product management and the
yeah,
product team, so you know their ways of working, you know common pitfalls. You understand how the relationship between product and design, product and engineering, product and sales
yeah,
works. So yes, there are advantages. It's not the only route for sure.
yeah,
Project management, it has a huge amount of overlap for sure because it is very much, to be honest, corralling people to do the things that you need them to do in a certain way, very very process, very step by step focused.
hmm
In some regards. So project management, business analysis, anything to do with that design to be research. To be honest, are viable ways in as well, where you've kind of if you've got experience on a particular area of the product management life cycle,
yeah,
deep experience there, fantastic. Because almost certainly, okay, you'll have other areas that you'll then be involved with, but you'll have deep experience on your research, for example. How do we do
yeah,
research, customer research, voice of the customer? You'll be ace at making sure that that's all set up and working really well. Um, Traditional ops manager roles, because let's face it, um, you're helping you're helping the business work in a certain way,
yeah,
and it almost doesn't matter where you've come from, what area of a business that you've come from, and to be honest, even what sector you've come from.
yeah,
Um, as long as you kind of have some experience, probably in software development, in even within the business, you've come from a business that's heavily involved in building either their own tech or a SaaS product. Um, you can kind of come from kind of various different levels, even kind of people management and HR, because again, you've got an understanding of how people operate,
yeah,
and excuse me, how teams operate and how they collaborate together. So product management, is a very common route, but it's by certainly not means the only one. And it's about, looking to get into the role, about looking at those experiences that you've got and go, how are they applicable to the pillars of product ops? So,
yeah,
if we're being for, strategic, if we're looking at processes and ways of working, data usage, communications, iterating on the ways that we work and collaborate. If you've got good experience in any of those areas in any way, shape, or form, see how they can be applied, in this context.
presumably, yeah, and presumably you need to have sort of empathy for the product role, so understanding, the drive of the product role. But it sounds like also as well, knowing what good looks like in terms of some of these kind of processes and ways of working for product.
Yeah, it's I mean, empathy. Excuse me, empathy. Absolutely, in understanding the difficulties, the challenges that product managers have, and the whole product division has.
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, a kind of a good a personality trait of being quite robust,
Mhm.
quite mature, and I don't mean in age, but I mean in kind of your, just being worldly wise and a
Yeah,
bit kind of almost a little bit thick skinned, because we are there to help the product managers be better, do better.
yeah,
Um, but we are also there for the business, and sometimes that really does mean that we need the product managers to do a bit more or change more than maybe they're comfortable with, because actually there is a net positive impact on the whole business. We're there to serve the business like everybody,
yeah,
and sometimes that does mean getting product managers to do things that they don't necessarily want to do. And so that does take an amount of robustness about you to kind of go, hey guys, look, I know you don't want to do this, but this is what we do. And I'm going to be there to help you. And we're going to implement this so it's as least intrusive as possible. We'll reuse data. We'll do X, Y, and Z as much as possible. But you've still got to do this.
yeah,
Um, It can be quite a difficult thing for, so for those people that just don't want to do it, or are really quite challenging in kind of what they do and don't want to do. So it is that real mix of going, look, hey guys, I'm empathetic and I want to help you with all of this, but here
Yeah.
is the goal, here is the end result. And looking at that, that's where the strategic element comes in, is saying, hey guys, girls, this is the direction of travel. This is the value of what we're doing. So, and I'll give you an example of Helios right now. There are various different kind of routine reports and updates and things like that every product manager has to do.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit all over the place, in terms of kind of when things were due and things like that. And we've just gone through a process of going, hey, I'm going to pull all of these things together and I'm going to suggest to you, look, carve yourself out half hour, 45 minutes on a Friday,
Mhm.
and just go and hit them all off. Actually, if you're in a good habit of keeping your roadmap up to date, making sure your sprint goals are all aligned and things like that, then to be honest, most of that list of jobs, and there's about half a dozen on there, are already done. They're naturally done as part of your job. You
Yeah.
do it without even thinking about it. You've embedded a habit in how you work so that you don't have to come back and do this later. There'll be some things that, look, I just need to give an update on this initiative, and just got to do it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But what we are also doing is saying, when you do that one report, it actually serves three, because I'm taking data from that report and that roadmap update, and behind the scenes I'm combining them together in a different one. So we've got our board reports, we've got our leadership reports, we've got our product leadership reports, we've got our products hub that's being updated, we've got people that are looking at our roadmap, we've got our weekly line management updates that are all now naturally being done because you're doing a half dozen small tasks.
Yeah.
And it is a job. We are very busy. I'm sorry, but what I've tried to do here is to say, hey, how can I make this as super easy as possible while still meeting all the minimum requirements of what we need to do?
Yeah.
And we're rolling it out. I
Yeah.
don't know how successful it's going to be, if I'm perfectly honest with you, but I'm very hopeful, because what we have also done is shown, hey, these are the people that you're impacting. People are
Yeah.
reading these, they are impacted by it. We are getting feedback from all of these things, and the value is, it genuinely is there, and you will now start to see that over the next coming months. And we've started to see it with some of these reports that we were kind of doing all about the place, because people are more informed. They're coming to meetings and strategy sessions much more informed than they were before,
Yeah.
and so the value is now starting to be realised. And when we've got that, I'm very hopeful that our colleagues will be, hey, yeah, no, we see the value. Let's do this, and let's be efficient. Tell Graham how we could do this a bit more differently,
Yeah.
again, while meeting that minimum requirement. And the team I've got here are all up for really making these efficient changes, because it will save them time. And they're really up for kind of just going, hey Graham, could we tweak this? Could we change this? Could you think about helping us with this? Yes, I'd love to. Let me help you, because let's help give
Yeah.
you more time back to do the things that you need to do.
Terrific, terrific. Thanks, Graham. Some great examples in there as well. And then just finally, if I'm new to product ops, maybe I'm a CPO and I'm thinking about moving in that direction, or maybe I want to move into product ops as my job role. Where can I go to learn more? Are there conferences, blogs? Where can I go to find out more?
So there's one book out, Melissa Perry and Denise Tills, who
Oh,
have
yeah,
produced the
sure.
Product Ops book. I've read it twice. It's very good. I agree with about 95% of it, and the final 5 is interpretation of approaches and things like that, which is
Right. Okay.
but very good. I wrote a playbook about this time last year,
Okay.
which is available online, which is more focused on kind of the implementation of the communication and collaboration side of
Right.
things. But that's available. That's freely available. There's a number of great people out there that are kind of write newsletters. I do. A lady called Jenny Wanger in the US. She writes a really good one. Chris Compton in the UK. He writes a really good one. Antonia Landy out in Germany. She does some good stuff as well. She does lots of content.
Yeah.
There's a couple of there's a a number of communities that
Okay.
have product ops elements to them. So there's one that's called Product Ops HQ, that's run by Dragon Boat.
Okay.
Product Led Alliance does one.
Yeah.
Top Prods with Ross Webb,
Yeah.
he does one. Or he's just extended his one to really focus on product ops as well. And there are a number of podcasts. I do a podcast on product ops as well, which people can kind of read up on, or sorry, listen to. There's a couple of others out there as well. So all of the content at the moment is very homegrown. It's all very created and curated by people that are in the roles or have been in the roles.
Yeah.
There isn't a great deal in terms of kind of official courseware, courses, bits and pieces. Like there are a handful out there, but not too many.
Yeah.
It's all very much, hey, let's go and learn from people that have done
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Which is a great way to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Great.
I do, and I do. One of the great things I had conversations with some great people on my podcast a couple of weeks ago. I had Claire Hawthorne from Oscar Health, another heavyweight in product ops. She joined mine and Antonia's podcast, and it was eye opening for me. We had a great debate about the term support. I mean, you mentioned the term support earlier and how it
Yeah.
supports the team, and she won't mind me saying, if you're watching, hi Claire, she doesn't like the word. She actively goes against using the word support in product operations for very, very good reasons. She doesn't like seeing it as a supporting role. We're there as equal partners, and she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I fall into the trap of using support because my interpretation is we all support the business goals, and
Yeah.
we are there to support each other. But it was a great debate, and both right and both challenged on that as a terminology piece. So, and I'm learning, from all of these people consistently, despite the experience I've had. I learned from people that are just doing it, trying out different things, and have successes and failures. And we all do that from each other at the moment.
Yeah, terrific. I will definitely check out all of those resources and the podcast you just mentioned. Graham, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a great conversation and a really good kind of sprint through various aspects of product ops. Thanks again, and I hope we get to speak again soon. And I'd love to catch up on your 0 to 1 journey at Helios X. So thanks again, and hopefully we speak soon.
Thanks, Tim.
Cheers, Graham.
Thanks, bye.